What if what you call fear isn't fear at all, but truth finally breaking through? Picture this: a single beam of light piercing through the darkness of a room that's been sealed for years. The shadows retreat, revealing shapes you never knew existed. A mask slips from someone's face, falling in slow motion to the ground, shattering into fragments that catch the light. That racing heart, that overwhelming urge to run, that voice in your head screaming, "Something's wrong." What if it's not warning you of danger? What if it's celebrating your awakening? The music begins softly, a gentle tension that mirrors the moment between sleep and consciousness, building slowly like the first rays of dawn. Stay with me until the end, because I'm going to show you what happens when you stop calling it fear and start calling it awakening. What you're about to discover will change how you see everything you've been running from. The screen fades to a deeper contrast, complete darkness giving way to brilliant, almost uncomfortable light. Because clarity hurts first, but what comes after, that changes everything. You know that feeling, don't you? Your heart starts racing for no apparent reason when you walk into certain rooms. You find yourself avoiding people you used to enjoy being around, but you can't quite explain why. There's this persistent sensation that something isn't right. Not wrong exactly, but different. Off. Like you're seeing through a filter that everyone else seems to be missing. Maybe you started noticing things that make you uncomfortable. The way someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes. How conversations feel hollow, like everyone's reading from a script you never received. You catch yourself questioning things you never questioned before, and it feels overwhelming. Your friends might say you're overthinking or being too sensitive. Maybe you've even told yourself the same thing, wondering if something's broken in you. But here's what I want you to know, and really hear this. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're not losing your mind. If anything, you're gaining it. That hypersensitivity you're experiencing, that's not fragility. That's your consciousness expanding beyond its old boundaries. Those uncomfortable feelings when you're around certain people or in certain situations, your system isn't malfunctioning. It's finally working. If you recognize yourself in what I'm describing, if you've been wondering why everything feels so intense lately, why you seem to see and feel things others don't, maybe you're not running away from something. Maybe you're just seeing too much, too clearly, too soon. And that changes everything about how we approach what you've been calling fear. Here's the truth that nobody talks about. What you're experiencing isn't fear in the way you've been taught to understand it. It's not the primal, survival-based emotion that kept your ancestors alive when they encountered predators in the wild. What you're feeling is the shock of seeing clearly for the first time. Think about it this way. Imagine you've been living in a dimly lit room your entire life. Your eyes have adjusted to the shadows, and you've learned to navigate around the furniture you can barely make out. You know where the walls are, where it's safe to walk. Then someone flips on the lights. That moment of intense discomfort you feel, that's not because there's suddenly danger in the room. It's because your eyes are overwhelmed by information they've never had to process before. The room was always this way. You just couldn't see it. The difference is profound. Conditioned fear says run from the danger. New clarity says process all this information I've never noticed before. When you start seeing people's true intentions, when you recognize manipulation you used to miss, when you feel energy that others can't perceive, that's not your nervous system malfunctioning. That's your awareness expanding beyond the comfortable boundaries it used to know. Carl Jung understood this. He wrote about how we all carry a shadow, the parts of ourselves and our world that we've learned not to look at. But awakening doesn't let you keep your eyes closed anymore. What feels like fear might just be you encountering aspects of reality and even aspects of yourself that are finally coming to light. Your old self could ignore the undercurrents in conversations, the subtle power dynamics, the energy that people carry. Your awakened self can't. And that intensity isn't something to be afraid of. It's something to learn how to navigate.
Here's what they don't tell you about awakening. Clarity is like surgery without anesthesia at first. It cuts through everything you thought you knew, and yes, it's going to hurt before it heals. The pain isn't because you're broken. The pain is because you're finally seeing wounds that were always there, just hidden beneath layers of distraction, denial, and the comfortable lies we tell ourselves to get through the day. When you first start seeing clearly, your entire system goes into defense mode. It's like your psyche has an immune response to truth. All those defense mechanisms you've built over years, the rationalizations, the people-pleasing, the staying busy to avoid thinking too deeply, they all activate at once. You might find yourself wanting to go back to sleep. You might catch yourself reaching for old distractions, old patterns, anything to dim the intensity of what you're now able to see. This is normal. This is your system trying to protect you from what it perceives as an overwhelming flood of new information. But here's the crucial part. This phase is temporary. The discomfort you're feeling right now, it's not your new permanent state. It's the transition phase. It's your consciousness learning how to process a broader spectrum of reality without getting overwhelmed by it. Think of it like learning to drive at night with new headlights. At first, the brightness seems almost blinding compared to what you're used to. But as your eyes adjust, you realize you can see so much more of the road ahead. The discomfort fades, and what's left is clarity that keeps you safer than you've ever been. I'm going to show you exactly how to transform this discomfort into your greatest strength. But first, you need to understand why this is happening to you and why it's happening right now.
Picture yourself standing at the edge of a foggy bridge. You can barely see 5 feet in front of you, but you know you need to cross. Every step feels uncertain. Every shadow could be a threat. And part of you wants to turn back to the familiar ground behind you. But here's what you can't see from where you're standing. There's solid ground on the other side. There's a destination worth reaching. And you have everything you need to make this crossing safely. The key isn't to eliminate the fog. It's to learn how to navigate through it. First, change what you're naming. When that uncomfortable feeling rises in your chest, don't say, "I'm anxious" or "I'm scared." Instead, say exactly what you're seeing. I'm noticing that my friend always changes the subject when I try to have a real conversation. I'm seeing how I've been making myself smaller to make others comfortable. I'm observing the pattern where I give my energy away and then resent people for taking it. This isn't just semantics, it's revolutionary. When you name what you see instead of what you feel, you shift from victim to observer. And observers have power that victims don't. Second, breathe consciously through the discomfort. When you see something that shakes your foundation, your body wants to hold its breath, to contract, to brace against the truth. Don't fight this. Acknowledge it, then breathe anyway. 4 counts in, hold for 4, 4 counts out. This isn't just relaxation, it's training your nervous system that you can handle truth without going into survival mode. Third, write down what you're perceiving. Not what you think you should be seeing, not what sounds reasonable or polite, what you're actually noticing. Your journal becomes your evidence that you're not losing your mind, you're finding it. I notice how drained I feel after talking to this person. I see how I perform happiness instead of feeling it. I observe how I've been waiting for permission that's never coming. Each step across that foggy bridge, you're building your capacity to see clearly without falling apart. Each breath, each truthful observation, each moment you choose awareness over avoidance, you're developing spiritual muscle memory. And here's what starts happening. The fog begins to thin, not because the world becomes simpler, but because you become stronger. You realize you can handle seeing what's really there.
Here's what nobody tells you about waking up. The hypersensitivity isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. Your mind isn't broken, it's recalibrating. Think about walking out of a dark movie theater into bright daylight. For those first few moments, everything is overwhelming. The sun feels aggressive, colors seem too vivid, sounds are too sharp. Your eyes water, you squint, maybe you even feel dizzy. But you don't assume something's wrong with your vision. You understand that your pupils need time to adjust from darkness to light. This is exactly what's happening to your consciousness right now. For years, maybe decades, you've been living in a kind of spiritual darkness. Not because you were broken or unconscious, but because that's what survival required. You dimmed your awareness to tolerate situations that weren't truly tolerable. You numbed your intuition to stay in relationships that were slowly killing your spirit. You turned down your inner volume to function in systems that demanded your silence. And now your pupils are adjusting to the light. That overwhelming sensitivity you're feeling to people's energy, to fake conversations, to environments that once felt normal, that's not you becoming too sensitive. That's you returning to your natural state of awareness. It's like your soul is stretching after being cramped in a too small space for too long. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it feels like everything is too much, too bright, too loud, too real. But this discomfort is the price of admission to a life that actually fits you. You're not losing your old fears, you're outgrowing them. The fear of being alone is being replaced by the recognition that you've been lonely in crowds of the wrong people. The fear of not being loved is giving way to the understanding that you've been accepting crumbs and calling it a feast. The fear of being too much is dissolving as you realize that the right people will never ask you to be less. This recalibration phase, this period where everything feels intense and overwhelming, it's not permanent. Your system is learning to operate at a higher frequency, and like any upgrade, there's an adjustment period. But here's the beautiful part. As you adjust, you're not just gaining the ability to see what's false, you're gaining the capacity to recognize what's true. You're developing X-ray vision for authenticity. You're becoming a connoisseur of genuine connection. You're learning to spot your people from across a crowded room. The same sensitivity that makes you want to run from toxic situations is the same sensitivity that will guide you toward relationships and opportunities that actually nourish you. The same awareness that shows you where you've been compromising yourself is the same awareness that will help you create boundaries that protect your energy. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your horizons, and those horizons are wider than you ever imagined possible.
So here you are, standing at the threshold between who you used to be and who you're becoming. The old world behind you feels like a costume that no longer fits, and the new world ahead feels both terrifying and magnetic. This is your moment. This is your awakening. You have a choice to make. You can try to go back to sleep, dim your awareness, numb your sensitivity, squeeze yourself back into spaces that are too small for the person you're becoming. Many people do. They decide the discomfort of growth is too much, and they retreat into familiar patterns, familiar relationships, familiar limitations. But you can't unknow what you now know. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unfeel what you felt. The genie is out of the bottle and there's no going back, only forward. The path ahead isn't easy, but it's yours. It's the path of conscious living, of authentic relationships, of work that matters, of boundaries that protect instead of walls that isolate. It's the path of becoming fully, unapologetically yourself. You're not afraid, you're just awake. And being awake in a world that often sleepwalks through life takes courage. But that courage, you already have it. You've been building it with every uncomfortable truth you faced, every toxic situation you've walked away from, every time you've chosen growth over comfort. The hypersensitivity will balance out. The overwhelming feelings will settle into wisdom.
The fear of being too much will transform into the confidence of being exactly enough. But only if you keep going, only if you trust the process, only if you honor what you're becoming instead of mourning what you're leaving behind. Your awakening isn't a destination, it's a way of traveling through life. It's choosing awareness over denial, authenticity over approval, growth over comfort, again and again and again. This is just the beginning of your story. The next chapter? That's where we explore how to navigate relationships when you're operating at this new frequency. How do you connect with others when you can see through the masks? How do you build genuine relationships when small talk feels like sandpaper on your soul? The journey of awakening continues. Watch the next video to discover how to build authentic connections in a world that often rewards pretending. You're not broken, you're not too sensitive, you're not asking for too much. You're just finally, beautifully, courageously awake.